What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we are just going to be doing an early impressions or early look at Ghost of Yotei. I want to start incorporating these videos into my rotation just because I think it'll be cool to have a contrast from early thoughts on the game, and then obviously we'll still do the after the credits series at the end to kind of recap all of our thoughts. I think it's going to be pretty cool. Plus, it gives me a reason to make more content, and I love making content, so it'll work out good for me. Hopefully it works out for you guys as well. But it's going to be a fun one. We got a lot to talk about with this game. So thanks for joining me. Let's dive right into it. Alright guys, so we do have the game open here for you guys to see this nice beautiful view that we have in this gorgeous video game. I don't know if I'm going to move, but I do have the game open here in case I do want to show something off. But I want this to be more concise and a little bit more... Well, I want myself to be a little bit more composed, and every time I pick up the controller while I'm not streaming and trying to make a video, I sound like an absolute retard. So we're not going to do that, hopefully, too much. But if there's something I want to show off, we will go into that. And that's why the game is open. But with that being said, the first thing I want to talk about is that this game in particular has had a lot of political discourse about it around and up to its release. And to this day, there's still a lot of political conversations going on about this specific game. And here's what we're not gonna talk about any of that shit in this video. I refuse to do it, okay? At the end of the day, everywhere that I turn, everywhere that I look, especially here in the United States, everything is being politicized in some way, shape, or form. Now, this is the only time I'm gonna give any political thoughts about anything, but we're just gonna leave it here, and, you know, it is what it is. I am completely against the actions of some of the people on the development team and some statements that they made regarding political events that occurred before this game released. Entirely against it. And there's other things that I'm also against that I'm not even going to go into. But despite that, I have to draw the line somewhere, right? With this political shit. And I've decided gaming is my favorite hobby. Gaming is my passion. I'm not going to let politics ruin gaming like it has everything else in my life. So I still purchased this game. I loved Ghost of Tsushima that I played earlier this year, so I've got a lot of recency bias to that game. I still remember it very fondly. And so any game that followed that game that I loved so dearly, I would have picked up. So I just did not let politics dictate my purchase of this game. I decided I still wanted to try it despite all of that shit. And going forward, that is how I'm going to approach games. I'm not even, like, I'm so sick and tired of shit on X or Twitter. I fucking hate X. I'd rather call it Twitter, but it's not Twitter. Doesn't really matter. That's besides the point. But either way, I bought the fucking game because I wanted to play the game. That is it. I'm not supporting anyone directly or any of that. I'm just a fucking gamer that wants to play games without having to have everything politicized. Now that that point is taken care of, we can actually dive into the game itself. Obviously, absolutely beautiful as the fucking sun crests the mountains there, and it just got even more beautiful. What an absolutely amazing shot we got here. This whole game is really kind of a background simulator. You can post up anywhere and just look over this environment and just be blown away with how the game looks. It's absolutely a visual masterpiece, and to put it on quality mode, it runs at 60 FPS, even on the base PS5, which I have here. So performance, absolutely incredible. And I do like some of the changes that were made to this game's gameplay. There's not a lot of them, so it's very similar in the gameplay, you know. It's very similar gameplay to what we had in Ghost of Tsushima, but they have added a few things. A couple nice things they added. They added a very intricate counter system. They added a very fun disarm ability. You can be disarmed and drop your weapon, and you can also disarm enemies under certain circumstances, which I think is very cool, and it adds a nice layer of depth to the combat. And they did still keep the stance system. Now, this was a big contention point for me when I played through Tsushima, was that the game ended up feeling really rock, paper, scissory. I mean, in Tsushima in specific, you would literally switch stances depending on the enemy that you were up against, and the stances were almost as blunt as they could be. You had a shield stance, you had a brute stance, you had, all these different stances. So when an enemy would come up to you of that specific type, you would switch to the specific stance that would do the most damage to them. And that's kind of how the gameplay flowed in that game. And it's got a similar stance system in this game, but it's not as upfront in your face about it, right? So you start the game with the katana, and I'm 4 hours in. So I'm not super far into this game here, but I did just unlock the second stance, which is the dual blade stance. And those are just two separate stances, but they work very similar. You use the katana against other katana wielding people, and that's kind of the point of that. And then you switch to dual blades in combat when you're approached by an enemy with a spear. Other than that, it works the same way. If you switch to the correct stance of the enemy that you're fighting, you'll deal more posture damage. So every fight kind of goes the same way. You switch to the proper stance, you throw heavy attacks, you break the enemy's posture, then you throw light attacks, and you get the execution. And then you move on to your next target, switch stance for him, and kind of repeat the cycle. So the combat is really exactly the same as it was in Tsushima, and I believe I feel exactly the same way about the combat as I did with Tsushima's combat. It's maybe a little bit better than serviceable, but it's not groundbreaking in any way, shape, or form. I will say, visually they have improved the combat a lot. You actually do decapitate limbs and stuff, which was a big thing that I mentioned in my review, and that's cool to see. It's a lot more gory, a lot more visceral. So that is nice from a visual standpoint, but from a gameplay standpoint, it's very similar to what we got in Tsushima. So it's just basically more Tsushima, which isn't really a bad thing, but again, it's just a little above serviceable in my opinion. It's not groundbreaking by any means, but it's enough to kind of keep you going if, well, it's going to be what you're doing a lot. So that's pretty cool. Another thing they're doing with the game, and this is a double-edged sword, in a way, but I'm going to save the negatives of this for a little bit later on in the video. But I do like the new mechanics that they have added into the open world. For example, as Atsu, your main character here, you can take bounties on and go out and just do these bounties that are kind of like side missions where you go out, you find a Ronin who is basically a bounty hunter, and you take out that bounty hunter or that target, and then you can turn it in to get gold. So it's kind of a fun little thing. I really enjoyed doing like bounty hunter missions in Red Dead Redemption 2 online. I don't know why, but I found that very enjoyable, and that's encapsulated in this game here as well, except you do it with swords. So it's pretty fucking cool. You get to track the enemies down and take them out and get that gold. That's pretty cool little side content that they added. I really enjoy that. A lot of the other side content still exists here. There's shrines that you go up to, you bow, you unlock techniques. There's bamboo poles sitting up that you can strike to increase your attack damage. I don't even think it does that. I think it gives you an extra spirit ball, but there's still bamboo strikes in the game. I don't know what they give you. I should know that, but I don't right at the moment. So we're just going to breeze right on by that. And then there's meditation spots and hot springs and all of that stuff that just kind of will slowly progress your character as you play through the game. All that stuff transferred right over from Tsushima. That stuff still works very well. You still chase foxes or wolves in this case to those rest stops and things like that. That stuff's all good. And of course, one of the things I love most about the Ghost franchise is the absolute minimalist hub that this game has. There is no hub, and the way that they circumvent that is with the wind. So if you select a target on the map, the wind will point you in the direction that you need to go, and then you can swipe up on the touchpad at any time to get a gust of wind. So if you kind of go off course, you can recorrect. Beautifully done. One of the best things that this game does, honestly, is having this limited HUD really helps you immerse yourself into the game, and Ghost of Yotei does a phenomenal job of that as well. It's right out of Tsushima's playbook, but again, it works phenomenally, and I love that about this game. Now we're going to move on to the thing that I'm struggling with the absolute most, and it ties back into, well, kind of ties back into what we talked about just a second ago, and that is the story. My favorite thing about Ghost of Tsushima was the narrative. I absolutely loved the narrative in that game, and it's funny because I've heard a lot of conversations of people that I listened to their podcast talking about Yotei, and they're all like kind of poo-pooing on Tsushima's story. And I fucking loved Tsushima's story. I thought the narrative was absolutely fantastic. Just to kind of briefly, too long didn't listen. The main through point, or the main narrative that kind of carried through Tsushima was that you were a samurai, and samurais fight with honor. They fight face to face with their enemies, and they want you to know they're there. They just want to outpower you. And with the events of Tsushima, Jin Sakai was going up against tremendous odds, and if he stuck true to the samurai code, he probably wouldn't be able to achieve his goal. So he started to incorporate stealth tactics, poisons, things like that, all of which the samurai would not condone. And he fought with this internal battle throughout the entire game, and I thought that was a beautiful through line. It tied into the setting absolutely phenomenally, and it was just flawless. So far, in my 4-hour playthrough of Ghost of Yotei, this has just been a standard revenge tale. Now, there's nothing wrong with a revenge tale. The only issue that I have with it is Tsushima was so developed into the setting, right? It was so wrapped into the culture of samurais and things like that, and it was so unique, and to be honest, I loved that narrative. I've mentioned it a few times. I don't think it was mid at all. I thought the narrative was phenomenal. This is just your standard revenge tale that could be told in any fucking time period ever, right? So the narrative has taken a massive kind of step back for me in this game, and that was really the driving force in Tsushima. I always wanted to see where the story would go or what decisions Jin would have to make, and that's just not happening here with Atsu. The storytelling in this game is done a little bit differently. You kind of, obviously, beginning of the game, your family gets murdered by a samurai lord dude that you end up having to track down and kill all of his associates, and probably him at the end of the game. I mean, I don't know. I don't expect any crazy twists, but it could happen. But that's kind of the broad strokes story as I've gathered it so far. And the way the story is told is through flashbacks, where you go back to locations Atsu went to when she was younger. You hold the touchpad and you become young Atsu, and you have these dialogue moments with your parents and with your brother and things like that. So they're fleshing the characters out through flashbacks to kind of grow your attachment to them. It just doesn't hit very well for me, though, to be honest. It's kind of a frustrating thing when I have to go to young Atsu to do these missions, like these little weird kind of not narrative things, and it just hasn't gotten very interesting for me yet. So it's not grabbing my attention, and because of that, this game has not had its hooks in me hardly at all. I've been playing Mega Bonk like fucking nuts. I've been like, every chance I've not been working, I've been playing Mega Bonk and not coming back to Yotei, which has been an issue, because obviously I want to play narrative games and I'm getting lost in a fucking roguelike again, which is a constant problem that I have. But it kind of is what it is. So yeah, that's really my main gripe. I am excited to kind of see how it progresses, see what more stances we get. Hopefully the story tightens up a lot and gets a lot more interesting as we go. I'm sure it will. Sucker Punch does make good stories. I mean, Tsushima was phenomenal. So I would imagine this game will start to pick up the pace a little bit. I am still very early on here. I know these games are traditionally quite long. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of that's really bumming me out. Right, that doesn't have its teeth in me, and it really doesn't right now. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with the early impressions. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know if you did. Let me know what I should do in the future to kind of up the quality of this series, because this is obviously not ideal, but it's super easy to make, so we'll take it. But other than that, I love you all. Let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts on Ghosts of Yotei are. Keep it away from politics, though, please. I mean, you can say you aren't going to buy it because you don't want to support the developers. That's fine. But let's just not go into the fucking nitty-gritty. We get enough of it in our day-to-day life. Let's have a fucking break, all right, and just enjoy things. Either way, I'm going to keep plugging on this game, keep making progress, and hopefully you'll see it again a little bit later on with and after the credits. Also, just to touch on it, I have 2 other games that I did beat that I have to make after the credits videos on, and I'm just being fucking lazy and not making those videos. So I will get to those. So we have 2 more upcoming, so stick around for that. And then hopefully maybe some Mega Bonk videos in the future as well, because I'm fucking addicted to that game. So we'll see. But either way, that is all I got. I love you all. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today and enjoying the beautiful scenery, as this lighting is so beautiful. Gosh, damn, this game looks good. But, yeah, I appreciate you. Take care of yourselves. Tell someone you love them today. It could change their life. And we will see you guys on the next episode, whenever that may be. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you later.